Hey everybody, welcome to module number 3. I hope that you are feeling like you're getting into the swing of things and things are starting to move forward for you, that you're kind of understanding the process and the way that things are mapped out, everything. Again, if you have any questions about the process or what we're doing, please make sure that you're reaching out. Module 3 continues with this idea of what did you say? So the writing that we're doing is a summary. This is what you said. And then my reaction. This is what I say, right? Well, we want to build on that you say a little bit more because your ability to take someone else's words, thoughts, and ideas, digest them, and then re put them out there is really key because that shows that you really understand the content, that you understand the material. Not only that you like know what it said, but you understand what the author is trying to get across, right? So that we see that you understand the concepts and the argument and their thesis and how they built that, how they supported their argument. That's really important because as you go into your other classes, you really want to have that skill so that you can show those other teachers that yes, I do understand this concept, right? This idea that I can take that and be able to digest it and give it back to you really is a key thing and really again shows that you understand the content. So we're going to be working on that in this module. So if you look at this page here, we've got our learning tasks and then our objectives, the things that we'll be doing in this module. We've got some different pieces that go along the way, some different tutorials and stuff like that. And then we're going to look at this module 3 closed research theme reading check-in. So again, the idea of the check-in is that you are kind of dipping in and out of different readings. You're kind of experiencing what those readings are, kind of getting a sense of what's out there, so that as we go through the module, through all the modules, and you're ready to do the persuasive paper at the end, the argumentative paper at the end, you have a lot of different papers to draw from, a lot of different works to draw from. So, what we want you to do for this one is you're going to take two of those readings, right? You can pick any two that you have not yet read, okay? So, they have to be two new readings. And then we're going to ask you to answer at least one of these questions, okay, for each of those two. Now, again, the purpose is for you to interact with the text some and to have a sense of what it is. Obviously, you know that this helps show that you got something out of it, but it gets you that kind of familiarity with what's out there. If you remember, if you look at our readings, there's a lot of different subtopics, right? Like it's all about food and culture, but it's we've got dieting and we've got the environmental impact of food. Then we have the cost and the food insecurity and junk food. There's a lot of subcategories in there. This just kind of lets you see what's out there and maybe find that area that you want to narrow in on. Okay, so this is your check-in that you'll do to show me kind of what you're reading and what you're interested in and kind of what you're thinking of those readings. The discussion board this week is going to build on this responding, right? The ways that you respond. And we want to practice. So you're going to take the reading that you use for this paper, right, for the module number 3 final draft, the paper that you did the summary and the reaction on. You're going to take that and you're going to do 3 responses to it: yes, no, and okay, but. And these are your responses. How would you approach this? How would you say, yes, I agree with you? Here's, no, I don't because, and yes, but okay, and kind of had that questioning strategy. So when you look in this chapter, the textbook, there's a lot of information about how to use those different strategies. Again, don't forget how the discussion boards work. You should put your initial post up midweek, preferably Wednesday. That allows people, when they get on to do their responses, they have a lot to choose from. So that really is important. Also, don't forget that the discussion board is a conversation. It's meant to be a conversation where you're kind of dipping in and out of it. You're coming in, you're seeing what's being said. You can kind of respond to different people. We would like to see you in here on multiple days. And again, if you want to get the fullest or the most possible points, you want to respond more than just to the 2 that are required, right? So you want to get that 3, that 4, that 5 responses. So if you want those full points, more than 2, the required, in and out on several different days to show that you're kind of keeping up with that conversation. And then we get into the actual submitting of your final draft. So last week, module 2, you turn in your half draft. In that, you got some feedback. Moving forward, you're going to get peer feedback from each other. This time, you got feedback from me. And what we're going to do then is you're going to take that, you're going to continue building it out, you're going to revise it, you're going to add to it, you're going to adjust it and smooth it out and do all those different things that you want to do to make it a great paper. And then you're going to turn in that final draft. Now, as a reminder, this is a summary and a reaction. So the introduction to this must have the title and the author. I read several of these half drafts that did not have that. Um, if it's not in the opening paragraph, it should be no more than the second, right? Like it needs to be very clear as to the article that you're responding to, who wrote it, the title, and then that summary tells us what it's about. It's really hard for us to see you have a reaction if we don't understand that article first. And because we're assuming that not everybody has read every article, that's why you have to do that summary. It also goes back to showing that you understand the article. This also gives you a starting point when you can say, hey, I'm having this reaction because, and we can go back and look at that, right? Like you're pointing back to that and say, look at that piece over there. That gave me my reaction. So we want to have a very clear summary. Then the reaction. This is what I think. This is what I felt. This is my gut level reaction, right? And being able to point back to the text and say, this is what made me feel that. For instance, when they talked about blank, right, made me feel this way. Now, a danger that some people have, I made a comment on a few papers, but I see this on a pretty regular basis, is that sometimes people want to get into the argument of the topic, and that's not what the reaction is. The reaction is looking at the article. The article made me feel blank. When I read this, this is how I would respond. This is how I think. This is my reaction to that, right? So make sure that your reaction sticks to that. The best summaries have examples from the text. The best reactions point to examples to show where that comes from. Some other things to think of. Don't forget style, right? Like you've got to have that style, either APA or MLA style, either one. Some of the half drafts have that, some of them did not. So you want to make sure that you get that. It's cleaned up. There's a lot of resources for you to know how to do that style. The title of the work. Something that I really like to point out to people is the title should not be reaction or paper number 1 or module 2, whatever, right? Like somebody outside the class wouldn't know what that meant. And the title is the first place that you set the tone for the paper. Like we get to see what the content is, what you're thinking, how you're going to approach it, right? So think of a title that reveals something about the paper, not just the title of the article or the assignment. Your introduction, obviously, get our attention. Make sure that you have that really strong thesis statement that shows what you want to accomplish. Um, I think that in the real world, I don't think you have to end your first paragraph with a thesis statement. Obviously, out there, um, but for the length of these papers, because they're short, because they're 2-3 pages, whatever, right? You don't have a lot of room to do that. And I think it's really important that you very quickly establish with your reader what you're doing. So make sure that you have that very strong thesis statement so that the audience knows what they're getting and where it's going. So then, I already talked about the summary. I already talked about the reaction. Conclusion kind of wraps everything up. Some things to think about. Please, please, please proofread your papers. Take a look at those papers, edit them, correct them, share them with somebody and ask for some advice. Use the tutor247.com. Use the writing lab at your local campus. Like you have a lot of different options. Please make sure that you're using those because you always want your paper to be as clean as possible because that's one less thing for the reader to judge you on instead of your ideas, right? Like if they see a lot of spelling errors and grammar errors and those kind of things, it's really easy to say, oh, their writing is bad. Their ideas must be bad too. And so you really want to take that off the table and make them consider the topic and the concepts and the ideas that you're presenting. Um, something else that I really kind of pointed to on a few people's papers were This paper is a personal, it's a personal reaction. It can be first person. I think that, first person is acceptable in this case. After this one, we won't use first person. I think second person is okay. I don't really recommend it. But something you really want to be careful of is that you don't write it in a way that the second person makes it sound like the reader. Like, oh, the reader has this going on, or the reader is this have this problem, or the reader is doing whatever. Right? So be careful of the implications. Um, Another thing to think about too, when you're looking at those examples, make sure that your examples make that connection, right? Like if you say, here's my reaction, and then you point to a piece, make sure it's clear where that comes from, right? A lot of times that, um, you want your reader, you're really selling your reader on your ideas, right? So you want to make sure everything is super clear or it's super well explained. Okay. So there's some information here. Remember, the final draft is somewhere around 750 words in MLA style. I am not counting every single word. I'm looking for a complete message. Now, if you're going way over, then I need to make sure that we're not repeating ourselves. If you're very short, I'm really going to question if you have a full message. But don't think that, like, the target's 750 and you get 730. There's points off, right? Like, I'm looking at the message as a whole. There's a lot of different tips and things down here. I hit on a lot of these already to be thinking about. Okay. And then you're going to submit the final draft right here. Again, if you have trouble with the submitting this, please let me know. I can help you get that in. Again, I do like to remind people to take a look at the rubric to see how your paper is going to be graded. I always think it's important for you to do that breakdown and say, okay, where is this at? What will the paper be graded on? Where are some things that I feel strong with, and where are some things that maybe I need to take a second look, right? Always make sure you're looking at those so that you have the best possible grade for you. As we kind of wrap this up, I think it's really important for you to take a minute to say, hey, where am I at? What do I need to do to make sure I stay on task? I'm doing my best work. Reach out to me, to others, that can help you make sure that you're doing that. You are welcome to work ahead. Okay, that is fine. But you definitely want to make sure that you don't fall behind, because this is an 8-week class. We move really quickly. You don't want to fall behind. You want to stay up with us and make sure that you're hitting those, because again, you don't want points taken off just because you're late. Okay. If you need anything, please make sure you're reaching out to me. I can help you. Email is the best way. Shoot me a text, or if you need to, leave me a voice message. We'll get back with you. But again, if you need something, don't suffer in silence. Reach out. Good luck, everybody.